Hey guys, it's Jimmy Bremner and Dexter, the boy, on the Urban Trail, CTOA. And we're going to continue on our map and compass, land nav, that type of thing. But one topic runs into another. Interesting, we just came across some deer sign just a little bit to the north of me, and then we came across the deer. So it's fascinating. I spent a lot of time as a kid in northern Ontario, and I actually see more animals, with the exception of a bear, in Toronto, in the Don Valley, than you ever see in northern Ontario. It's remarkable. So, take some time to get out in the parks and stay still and quiet, and you'll see a lot of wildlife, and it's absolutely fascinating. With that said, we're going to continue on our map and compass. Just going to revisit bad plants for a second. This has really the crazy sharp spikes, almost like a rose bush. Hopefully you can see that. I found this the hard way. Just ran into it. I've looked it up, and it appears to be something called a black locust, or a locust of some type. It looks very much like a rose stem without the flower. Has 9 leaves per stem. Crazy sharp. Try not to contact that. So let's go back to map and compass. We talked about paste beads last time. You actually don't have to make a set of paste beads. If you take a piece of paracord and again, on your pace count, when you reach 100 meters, you tie a knot in that piece of paracord, another 100 meters, another knot, so on, 10 knots, start over, right? So that's a way to do it, and you can do like really simple things. You can pick up pebbles, put 10 in one pocket. As you cover 100 meters, you place it in the other pocket. So there's a lot of ways that you can, skin a cat, as they say. Today I'm going to talk about a few things. As you know, I'm a huge fan of Dave Canterbury, Pathfinder School. Again, this gentleman was on a show called Dual Survival. He has a Pathfinder School and something called, it's an outfitting company that again, like if you need, steel water bottles, canteens, that type of thing, he does it all. And he's just an amazing guy. So there's nothing new here. We're going to talk about things that can help you navigate. One's called a baseline, okay? Another one's a handrail. I mentioned handrail when I was up at Ferguson Forest. Mr. Canterbury, he calls it a backstop. I prefer to use the term fence line, and I'll explain why. Because when I hear fence line, it means I don't cross, okay? I've hit a fence, so I'll try and explain that in a second. Another one is called aiming off, which applies a little bit more to when you're actually using a compass on a map, but I'll try and cover that off on that. So baseline is where I start, okay? Base camp, baseline. This is where I start from, and it's my jump off point, and I'm going to, again, explore, do some land nav, and so my baseline. So the reason it's important to have a baseline, and it should be a recognizable landmark or something to that effect, because again, in the bush, it's really easy to get disoriented, and we have something called lateral drift. Most of us, for some reason, we drift to the left, and so it's important to know that, and it's really easy to again become disoriented. But if that happens, you just need to sit still for a minute and gather your thoughts. Okay, so baseline, important to know that. In this particular case, and I've done a really, basic diagram here, and I haven't labeled it because the camera reverses everything like a mirror, okay? But I'll try and explain it as best I can. So if you can see that, my baseline is down here, and that's the stream that we're by right now. That's my baseline. okay? And I want to move up to this road at the top. Again, Dave Canterbury will call it a backstop. I'm calling it a fence line, all right? Because I don't want to cross that. If I cross that, then I've gone too far. So that's my fence line. And this river here, that's my handrail. Okay, so I know as long as the river, in this case, is, off to my right as I move towards my fence line, which is a big road here, I know that I'm going to get to where I'm going. So there's a lot of natural things in the environment that you can use to help guide you. And last time I said moss grows on the north side of the tree. It does for the most part. Most trees, if you look at them, they face the southeast, all right? So they can, it helps them grow, it helps them get sunlight. And so there's some basic things that you can look at and recognize where you're going. So the reason I use fence line is because I travel a lot, again, in urban centers. So when I if I'm in Europe, we'll say, or a city somewhere in North America, the first thing I do is I go to the hotel. It could be any hotel, but every hotel has pamphlets, and they always have a map of the city, always. And that's the first thing that I pick up, okay? And most cities are grids, all right? And so I pick out how I want to explore that city, and in that grid, okay, like a box, I pick my baseline where I start, could be the hotel, that's where I start, right? I pick out certain handrails, which are usually major streets, okay? Obviously they'll have a name, or they could have like trolley tracks, streetcar tracks, that type of thing, a tram, and that's going to be my handrail. And then I pick the street at the top of the grid that I don't want to cross, that's my fence line, all right? So I know, again, the parameters I need to work in and not to go beyond, and I have the handrail that can always get me back to my baseline, my base camp, could be a hotel, should be a recognizable landmark of some, or terrain that you can recognize very readily and very easily. So those are the basic things. So again, we've got our baseline, we've got our handrail, we've got our fence line, and then there's a thing called aiming off, which applies more to map and compass. So if you look at your map, and there's a particular crossroads that you're trying to navigate to, typically I aim off to the right, okay? So I know when I hit that road, the only thing I can do is turn to the left to get to the crossroads, to get to my destination where I want to be. And I'll try and explain that a bit more when we look at our map and we look at our compass. So the other thing that you should probably carry with you is like a write in the rain, some way of writing things down. And this will become more important as we start to take bearings with our compass. Typically what I do on the top of my compass, I'll either take a piece of masking tape or like a piece of white duct tape. So what I can do is I can record my bearing and my back bearing on it, and then again, it's very easy for me to read and understand, especially on the back bearing, how to get back from where you started. But as I said, all of those other simple things, again, people have been using this forever, before there were compasses. Okay, so you have your baseline, base camp, right? You have your handrail, right? That's going to help you. And then, as I said, for me, I call it a fence line because in my head, it means don't cross it, okay? And it keeps me, again, within my grid. So, like I said, for me, it's just an easier thing to do. So we're going to get back to, probably next one we'll look at a map and a legend on a map and what all the squiggly lines mean. And I'll do my best to explain that to you. So this is part 2. I'm going to ask you to subscribe and hit that notification button. Please comment. Please correct me if I'm wrong. enjoy learning things and learning other ways of doing things. So that's it. It's Jimmy Bremner. Have a great weekend. And Dexter, just over there, saying, I'm out. Jimmy Bremner, CTOA, Urban Trail, I'm out.